to start, but sharing details on the business part would require extensive uh, reviews and scrutiny from several internal parties, so I just left it out, and we're just going to talk about the production side of things. And for the same before mentioned reasons, I also decided to remove all images and videos from the presentation because I don't want anyone come yelling at me after this. Okay, let's go. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Myung. I'm development director at EA Korea. And I've been in the games industry for the last 13 years, more or less. Starting as a product manager, then switching over to the publishing side, learning biz dev and licensing works for a couple years, and then moving back onto the development side as a producer before finally settling in project management at EA Korea. My work took me from Germany to Korea, and then from Korea to the Netherlands, from the Netherlands to China, and then finally I came back to Seoul in Korea, where I began working at EA Korea for FCO. And for the past 2 years, I served the team as head of development for FC Online. And currently, I'm the lead DD of external development on a new project. So I keep talking about, wait, sorry. Yes. So I keep talking about DD, development director. Let's just clarify what this is specifically. At Electronic Arts, DD is an acronym for development director, and that's someone who manages a variety of disciplines, including software engineers, artists, game designers, and even other development managers. And DDs are basically the keepers of project schedules and play a vital role in successfully moving the dev team from one phase of the production into the next, whilst ensuring smooth collaboration and communication throughout the project phases, resulting in the best output quality possible, or at least that's what we strive for. It doesn't happen all the time. And we DDs partner closely with producers and tech directors to ensure the delivery of the project on time, to quality, and within the planned budget. And to do so, DDs take on many responsibilities, such as, for example, projects and team management, people management, budget management, partner management, risk management, and contract management. Sounds like a lot, it is actually a lot, and one person normally can't do everything all at once. But we have a team of DDs. Just a quick rundown on FC Online. FC Online is an online free-to-play game serviced on PC and mobile platforms. It is in its 7th year of live service right now, and it's been serviced across 4 countries, Korea, China, Thailand, and Vietnam, through 3 different publishers. And this is basically like the goals of how we update FC Online or keep it updated. The 3 big points serve us as like basically pillars. And the core of it is these are like our production guidelines that our working team looks to every day. Everybody works on their own. Everyone is responsible for their own work to some extent. And they are also making small decisions every cycle, every production cycle. And the live team really focuses on live service, sometimes even over the desires of internal team members, for the sake of a better live service product. And this serves us as guiding principles for working members throughout all phases of production. These are the characteristics of the FCO Live organization. The organization is structured in a way to align with the development and release schedule that are basically set and are not movable. We have monthly updates made up of 4 different build branches for each update. That means like when we update once a month, 4 builds go out. One each for Korea, China, and the 2 Southeast Asia countries. And these monthly updates are supported by 2 dev teams driven by a leadership group focused heavily on live service. And boop, sorry. Okay. And this is a high-level view on how our builds are developed and released. You can see that the builds are released in the order of feature monetization builds in turn. Dev Team 1 develops and releases the first batch, and then Dev Team 2 takes over and does the same thing, and then the iteration repeats itself. For a bit of additional context, the feature builds take at least 4 months for development until release, while the monetization builds are much lighter because there is no real feature development process going into it. And as our live service experience gets longer, the general feature dev period has become more compact, because when we started with this structure, it was 6 months for a feature build. Now we are at 4. So we have found ways to push efficiency. This is the dev timeline, more in a stacked up way to visualize it a bit better. For us to be able to deliver contents regularly every month, 2 dev teams are taking turns in developing and rolling out the updates. And this is basically, you can see a bit better in how we actually work on a timeline, stretched out on a timeline. And you can see every month a build goes out. And you can also see that one dev schedule is much longer than the monetization build, which is why we are able to do the monthly updates cadence that we're doing right now. Okay, this is a bit lengthy, so bear with me. So let me talk about the change history of our dev team structure and the monthly update cadence we have today. When the game launched in 2018, we had one large dev team that was responsible for all things related to builds. Development of large features, hot fixes, live content updates, and build releases to accommodate seasonality requests of our 3 publishers. So we basically had one single big pool of resources, but we were more reactive to emergent situations, rather than being proactive in how we plan out our rollout schedule. And it got pretty wild. It was a lot of 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, you could see pizza boxes piled up to the ceiling, and it was not because we had a party. We're to emergent situations, rather than being proactive in how we plan out our rollout schedule. And it got pretty wild. It was a lot of 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, you could see pizza boxes piled up to the ceiling, and it was not because we had a party, it was just everyone was staying late to do this. And the software engineer team had already been developing features by dividing internally the SE teams internally into feature teams as needed. But after the organization and development process stabilized a bit and became more elaborate, we decided to split the team into 2. Initially, we divided it this way on the left side, because the work format for feature development and smaller content development was different. So the feature development was it was way longer. Not the thing that you saw on the previous slide, but it was way longer. We had 12-week cycles of feature development. It was insane. And one more thing was as we did this, when PDs with different areas of expertise came together to discuss and make decisions. For example, a live PD has different priorities than a dev PD. A dev PD is basically the to push out features, but the live PD is looking at the live services, looking at the numbers, the AIPU, the NIPU, and potential rates, everything. And he wants other actions to take different actions than the dev PD. And whenever with this one team concept, when
this structure was not a final version, so to speak. So it was like the structures and the org structure also was constant flux. And after about the end of this, the life started developing features themselves on a smaller scale. Yeah. So as to why we changed from a feature demo to live team structure, that live team structure to our current two dev team format. I think that the most significant reason was the time. Like the game service was already like its second year, and we had actually caught up with the content around this game. The main content set, feature set was there, and at that time we were basically updating twice a year. Two big updates for summer. Our publishers, they prioritize for revenue. And for revenue, we really have quick updates or frequent updates. And at that time, we decided to switch to this foregoing this massive feature rollouts, and just decided to want to swap it with frequent updates. And on the bottom here, you can see like the dev how they deliver their build. You can see like this the dev team was plan production and like the whole cycle twice and then release a 6 hour. While a live team, which I was like the lead of, we were regular next maybe delivery 5 minutes. And we did some few reasons as to why this changed. Also, why the which was like efficiency, motivation, and I will get more into detail at the end of the day. I think it was mostly because of the business sense. It just made no sense that for us to switch to this format, as well as it allowed us to operate the content much easier, plan much better because both teams would be structured the same way. Because like the previous slide, you could see that the team composition is different. You have a IPD on one team and say FPD on the other side, and they would have different requirements, which always caused kind of conflicts whenever resource requirements collide. Yeah. Let's move on. So this is basically the high level view that we settled on right now. This is how we operate right now. We have 3 weeks of planning, 4 weeks of production, 4 weeks of debugging, and 5 weeks of hard. So basically, the debugging hard phase is longer than our actual like production phase, which can look excessive, but you have to remember that we are working with 3 publishers, which have 3 different publisher platforms, and we have to make sure that the builds that go out to our publishers are actually also working not just in terms of features, but also in terms of platform. And since it's a live product, which many players use, we really focus on making sure that the builds that we roll out are of high quality, the highest quality possible. Because if we don't, our player base can be pretty vicious. They are very vocal and very quick, and they punch us in the face if we don't do it. Yeah. Yeah. So the game launched in 2018, and our old structure has changed, evolved, and improved gradually and constantly. And we settled in on this form in 2021, 2022. And in the other stages of FC Live Service, we operated under the product concept, and the product leadership was at the same time the studio leadership, which means all aspects, all decisions regarding all aspects of the game was decided by the leadership. And the leadership consisted of the leads of various disciplines, the leaders of various disciplines. And once the DD team had enough personnel and product and production became stable enough, we broke the teams, the production team structure into core teams.
Which resolved the issue of product leadership becoming bottleneck, because otherwise they would have to stand and talk to each other all day, every day, just to discuss what to do about this build. So once we did that, our leadership also was finally able to take a day off, because before that it was really difficult. Yeah. So this is what FCO team structure looks like today. We have two smaller feature dev teams. We have a dedicated team for live service, including live and region PDs. Live PDs are the ones who look at the numbers. The region PDs who are the ones who interface with our publishers. Release DDs are the ones who make sure that the build gets delivered at quality and on time. And the live contents team is the team that creates all the assets required for live content. Then we have a mobile-oriented external dev team, so we are working with an outsourcing company that takes care of the mobile development. And we have a data-focused game design team, which I will explain a bit later towards the end of the presentation. Well, now we've covered like FCO's production philosophy, build delivery cadence, org structure history, so let's dive a bit deeper into the development process. So this is basically the overall dev process, but as you may have noticed, this graph of the dev process shows something that was not included in the simplified dev timeline, which is the pre-planning phase. And it's actually almost as long as the rest of the dev cycle. It's like 12 weeks versus 14 weeks. So it looks super excessive, I know. Like when I saw this for the first time, I was like, you guys are crazy. But without the pre-planning phase, the remaining phases would be total chaos. Like nobody would exactly know what to do until when, how, and the production phase would be developer hell. The pre-planning phase is the time where we define what has to be built. The planning phase determines the how, and once that's done, we go into execution with clarity and focus, at least as much as possible. And having said that, let's go quickly through the phases. So we have the pre-planning, which is where the next milestones feature development plan is conducted in collaboration between game designers and arts teams. And this involves planning for milestone roadmap items, including feature design and UI mockups. And this goes through 3 iterations. We have, you can see it IDD, PDD, FDD. So IDD stands for initial design document. Then 4 weeks pass, we get the preliminary design document. And another 4 weeks later, we have the final design document. This one has like everything. Like what needs to be done, what does it have to look like, the mock-ups are there. And to be honest, I've never seen a company that before, like that I worked at, that does like FPDs. Normally people take PDDs and think like, oh, this is really detailed, and then let's go to production. But this is just how we design features. Once we go into planning, production, and debugging phase, based on the FDD, several additional documents are produced. The TM review is like a telemetry review where we plant where we decide which logs to
You have another copy of the presentation?
to keep track of the feature, how well is the feature doing. The TDB is the tech design brief, which is basically where the work gets broken down, like the design gets broken
Everything
down.
is occupied. There is one thing and notepad
And the
one
TD
is for
review is for
Notes is
the
working now.
we are
they create all the
manually we are
test
doing.
scripts, they figure out like what we want to do in terms of PATs.
As soon as they change,
and stuff.
we on behalf
And
of that.
at the end of planning, we go to planning. So at this point, nothing else changes unless something horrible happens. So and then we go into 4 weeks of production, where we produce everything, and this production is executed based on the scope of the scan. So basically, the work scope has been broken down and estimated, so we
How much
know
time
how
we
much
have?
it costs in time. And
24
basically, we also know how much budget and time we
Is that the presentation?
so we can run scope of scan,
And the logos.
and we try to keep it below 100. Without 67. And then we go, once production is completed, during production we also have like pre-debugging QA, which is called PAT. The QB team is trying to ensure that there is functional quality already in place by doing the production acceptance tests 2 weeks prior, basically. And then we go into debugging where we fix all the critical functional bugs and we ensure that there is build stability. And once the debugging phase is complete, we assume that the build itself is done. No critical bugs, no blocker bugs, all the functions are there. And then we start sending out our builds to the hardening team. And for 5 weeks, we sent several rounds of hardening builds to the publishers, and we QA it one more time on the publisher platform to ensure like, that there is the item and the plan data and the sales functions and everything are like, properly in place before we roll out the updates. So this was like a brief rundown on the dev process overall that we are using. And to be honest, like this is working quite well. Like it was always like a pain in the ass to manage different dev timelines between teams, and this has kind of stabilized into a point where people are feeling comfortable and confident. They have enough ownership over their own team. To make decisions within that team by themselves and then basically just inform the leadership. So this is a really cool process that we have in place right now. Yeah, so this is basically an overview of the roadmap that we stretch out for a year, basically. We talk to, you can see here basically that we, throughout the year, we break down what needs to be done for the year. And on the publishing side, our publishers also start breaking down like their needs and prepare. And between like December, November to January, we get together and we discuss what we will do. By end of January, we aim to lock down everything that we want to do. We put it into a plan, and we like since 2009 we have been doing this in different iterations. But we basically review release schedules and plans to align with key marketing dates such as summer vacation, winter vacation is really big in Korea. Then we have college entrance exam period, which is another big thing there. Lunar New Year for China, for example, and Chuseok, which is Korean Thanksgiving. So for this period, we coordinate everything in advance with our publishers to prepare for events, for content, for event-specific content. And okay, this is a lot to read, but basically this is how our live issues get reflected into our dev plan. Before we set up this structure for urgent live issues and user feedback or backlog items, these issues kind of felt like everyone's job. So there was a lot of replicated work, cross communications, lack of processes, and the DD team went in, basically set up like aligned with the team's vision. So we set up an annual plan, organize the manpower planning, and review the content priorities in advance for the initial output. So plans always change, as you know, but plans are essential. You have to keep planning. Especially when creating outsourcing plans and securing budget, which requires advanced preparation. For the monetization roadmap, we plan the next year's class release and monetization asset production, lock down the monetization roadmap, and based on the roadmap, which is then based on the brand teams and yearly marketing plans of each country. Then we move on to the sourcing plan. Based on the confirmed roadmap, we calculate the needed resources for asset production. We differentiate between in-house and outsourced quantities, and we set the budget plan according to our plans. And after that, we move on to data asset creation, where we basically execute on the plan. We create and deliver on the art assets or the data sets. And once everything is done, it just enters the flow into the target build, and it goes the normal QA process before it gets released to the players. Another thing that we have, like once every year, this is a big thing for our player base because we don't, like FC Online has been in constant live service since 2018. That means there are no resets, we just update the roster every year around October. So we have one big one in October, as I said, the major roster update, where like the league information and like all the player information, the kits change, the action shots change, the 3D hacks change. That's done in the major roster update, and then it's followed up throughout the rest of the year until the next major roster update by squad updates. Our squad updates are like small changes in the transfer market that happen between these big roster update changes, or for example like a license expires, or like someone retires, someone dies, whatever. These changes need to be reflected quickly, so we aim to do this once a month to reflect reality as closely as possible. So for esports, when esports events come up, we decide on the target build to be used for the tournament, which is basically we look for the most stable build that is not too outdated. Then we proceed with turning off feature sets for other nodes that are unnecessary for the tournament. And then we follow it up with implementing tournament-related assets such as AdWords or the in-game stadium, or team uniforms, emblems, and squads that the actual players will use in the game. And then the game gets, we go through the whole event phase, and at the end, when there is a reward, then we create sometimes like kits for the winning team, and we put it into the game.
Capture audio. Right.
Yes. Oh, this part is like my pride and joy, so to speak. This is like the biggest thing that our DD team has done. These are all steps that normally require a lot of manual labor. And some juniors would always do overtime, and seniors would oversee it, and hours and hours of work, and then human error comes in. We basically got rid of all that. We have Alpaca, our in-house Slackbot/automation tool that does this every day. like they create, for example, when we have our designs, our technical design brief, there are hundreds of tasks, and we just tell them, and he creates it automatically and puts it in Jira. All the assignees are set. Everyone can calculate the real-time scope versus cap. The individual daily scope versus cap gets updated once a day. You can see like the lights. You can see like, okay, where are the bottlenecks? What do we have to look into? You can dive directly deeper into this. You can see like who's gonna miss the deadline based on the current velocity. You can see the daily dev progress tracking. You can see like basically how much progress have we made compared to last week. On all this would take a lot of manual labor, but we don't. This is amazing. Also, like as I said, we push out at least 4 builds a month. It can become quite chaotic with the delivery schedule because we don't deliver all 4 builds on the same day, right? And the involved people may have trouble keeping up, so we also have like an automated hardening schedule notification, and it also generates build notes by itself. Let's skip over because we don't have much time, right? Yeah, so these are like a set of different tools and meetings and processes that the DD team has set into place to better accommodate visibility and alignment across the team disciplines. And thus far, it's working the best I've seen so far. As a last page, I said I would talk a bit about the data-driven process of the GD team. The game design team is trying to, whenever they go into a feature development, the producer who decides on that feature decides whether we want to track the measure of success, MOS, measure of success for this feature or not. And when we decide we want to, then the GDs come up with a set of KPIs to track whether this feature is successful or not. Based on that, we go to our data analytics team, and they come up with a list of logs that are already in the game that we could use, and if there's not, we add the list of logs required to track the feature performance, and this becomes part of the next iteration's dev plan, like dev scope. And yeah, after release, we do data analysis and we do a feature retro and decide whether we want to invest more into this feature or we let it go. Yeah, oof, I went a bit over, 32 minutes. So this is what I've prepared for today. Thank you for listening so attentively. Q&A, anyone? Yes, sir.
How do you determine what's urgent and what's something that you can take up easily? Is this like
So, is it me? No. I can't hear what you're saying, sir.
Hello. Yeah. How do you decide what is an urgent bug fix and what is something that can pick up easily, like based on user feedback?
Okay, based on user feedback, we look at the bug itself first. We check whether this impacts live service in a severe way or not. For example, people can't log in, or like they can't access the inventory, then all hell breaks loose. Then it doesn't matter whether it's like a Monday 11 p.m. or Saturday 3 a.m. people get up. But normally when we have bugs that we consider like to be a nuisance, like it's basically all like internally verified. We check with our live producers, our region PDs, as well as QV, and we determine the severity of the bug. And if the severity becomes, if we categorize it as a blocker bug, a critical blocker bug, then that gets fixed as soon as possible. It can actually go into the phase where we go into a hot fix on the same day.
So in your slide you showed the debugging and hardening phases sort of back to back.
Yes.
Does there tend to be sort of overflow between the two or overlap between them? And for the hardening, is it mainly because you have 4 different kinds of builds and region related tasks that come into that?
Yeah, so basically, good question. Basically, what we try to do in debugging phase is like in-house quality verification focused on the feature developed. So we want to make sure that the feature functions as intended, that the quality is there. But in terms of hardening, we have to make doubly sure that it works as intended on the publisher platform as well. And it's sometimes like we are trying to replicate during the hardening phase, before it goes live, we replicate the live environment as closely as possible on stage environment to ensure like no big accidents happen during once it's rolled out. But this is basically, there are overlaps sometimes because like for example, let's say we upload a build into hardening and then right in the last second someone submits something like a new CL, a new change list into the debug build, and then we assume we operate based on that latest CL, and then like a build this is a bit older has been updated onto the staging environment or something. That can happen. It doesn't really anymore because we have some in place. But you never know what else will happen in hardened environment. It's different because the debugging environment is our in-house environment, where like there are fewer fewer risks from our standpoint. But when we go into hardening, we also don't know what the publishers are changing something.
So the hardening is again more for the live environment based on the different
Correct.
So if it was ultimately going to just one publisher or one final build, the hardening would be a
shorter. Yes, it's significantly shorter. Like the more regions, the longer the tail, because we have to do it consecutively. Because if you do it all at once, we actually consider that. But the problem is then you release once, that's a lot of effort, and then you find a bug. Then you have to release all 4 regions again. If we release in Korea first and we get all the major bugs out, then we go into the China release, for example, then we filter out another set of bugs, and then we go into Thailand and Vietnam, and when we are like there, the build is already almost full sail.
Alright, any more questions? Can we have one there? Probably the last question for now. Is it possible to detail out everything in the FTD, all the cases, all the edge cases, or does things come up when you actually are making the feature in the production stage, right? So does the FTD cover everything in itself? Like, is that even possible before you move into production phase?
How do I answer this? Let's say it's the attempt to get a perfect output. But it is true. It is true that during production we oftentimes find ourselves with question marks looking at the design, because the design is made by GDs and artists, right? And sometimes they are also planning things that are not technically not possible, or like kind of illogical, or they can be too expensive, and so we have to talk about it. And this is why we have like the tech design brief phase, where we actually break it down into workable chunks and we filter out all these questions normally there. But as you know, like it's a thing done by humans. So like some things slip through the cracks, and we find it during the production phase. But I believe that through the fact that we do this due diligence ahead of time, we are still able to course correct properly and still deliver within the schedule.
Alright, if there are any more questions, we can probably take them offline. But let's give a big round of applause to Jay. Thanks for. Thank you.